Hi everyone, Janelle Petrosino back to talk to you today about another important topic concerning your gut health. And today we're going to talk about the five most common gut imbalances and what symptoms may present for those things. We've been talking a lot this week about your overall gut health, what your gut is, the different factors that impact your gut. Today we're going to take a deep dive into what actually could be contributing to the symptoms that you're experiencing or the actual imbalances, or what are they rather? What does it mean to have a gut imbalance? Like I said before, gut health, the topic of gut health is such a buzzword right now. And I feel like a lot of people don't actually know what it means to have a gut imbalance. So hopefully we'll clear that up today. My goal is that by the end of this video, you have a just basic understanding. We're not going to spend a lot of time. I want to value your time, but a basic understanding of what the main gut imbalances are that we see in practice, so that you're aware and so that you know that what you may be feeling may be contributing to other imbalances in your body, like your hormones and vice versa, and or maybe the symptoms that you're experiencing is your body's way of saying, hey, there's a gut imbalance present. So let's try to figure out which one it is so that we can do something about it. So let's take a deep dive. I'm going to share my screen and play this from the start. So I'm going to talk to you today about the most common gut imbalances. Of course, there are more than five that could be present. And just for time's sake, I'm just going to share with you the most common. I'm here to educate you and inform you about how your body functions and what these typically, present with, what types of symptoms. But I just have to say, for liability's sake, I am not a doctor. I do not diagnose, treat, cure, or illness or any of that. And I also don't make medical claims. So any questions that you may have regarding this information, definitely consult the practitioner that invited you here, but also your physician. Obviously, some of the symptoms that you're going to see on these different pages are overlapping. So one imbalance may present with similar symptoms as another one. So it's really important to kind of navigate, your lifestyle and your toxic burden and your lifestyle habits and your health history and all of that with a health practitioner to really zero in and get to the root of what could be going on. And another thing I want to say, I am not saying anything bad against conventional medicine whatsoever. Every modality has a time and a place and a purpose, but this type of thing, is sometimes not really delve into in depth when you go to the conventional gastroenterologist office. And that's the beauty of having an integrative health practitioner on your team is that, somebody that can really hone in and say, this is what this means, or this is what's going on beneath the surface, and kind of take the different pieces of what you're struggling with and put a bigger picture together to help you understand what's going on. Some of the conventional testing that they do for these imbalances at the conventional medicine doctor, are not as in depth as the functional labs that we offer in our practices. So I just thought I would just educate on that a little bit because a lot of people ask, well, why the heck does my doctor not talk to me about this? And it's because, you need to have either a functional medicine doctor or integrative health practitioner on your team because that's what we're qualified to do. And I think that everyone should have a health coach on their team, in addition to their physician, because sometimes it takes a team of providers to really help you to, get to the root of what's going on in your body. So enough of that. The five common gut imbalances that I'm going to talk about today are bacterial overgrowth, H. pylori, yeast and candida, parasites, and food sensitivities. So these are just some of the most common things that could be kind of disrupting just the way that you feel on a day-to-day basis and maybe contributing to some of those chronic, annoying health symptoms that you may be experiencing, or maybe it's not even you, maybe it's a family member. So let's start with bacterial overgrowth. So bacterial overgrowth basically means that there's an overabundance or imbalance of the gut bacteria that we talked about the other day in your gut. Just a little refresher, a healthy gut has a high diversity. So you want to have a lot of really good bacteria at lower amounts, so that your gut is functioning the way that it's supposed to. However, due to life and stress and toxins and standard American diet and medications and health history and antibiotics and all the things, like over time, our gut can become more permeable, meaning, like I taught you, like things can leak into or out of your gut into your bloodstream and cause different imbalances in your body. And so when that permeability is established, unfortunately, sometimes bacteria that you don't want in there can get in and create a lot of disruption, or yeah, basically that's what happens with bacterial overgrowth. It could be good bacteria even that's just out of balance and not exactly where it needs to be as far as like preventing certain measures in your health or promoting certain measures. So what do I mean by that? Like, for example, like your gut can be out of balance in such a way that it impacts your immune system, or it can be out of balance enough that it just impacts your digestion or your ability to absorb nutrients. And as a result, your body is going to express that with chronic symptoms, which we obviously don't love and we don't want. So there's actually a couple of different kinds of bacterial overgrowth. In fact, there's, hydrogen dominant, methane dominant, or just regular old small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. They all have different meanings. Essentially, it just means that there's a different gut bug present that's causing different types of imbalances in your body. But nonetheless, the symptoms are pretty common, among the different ones. They're pretty similar. Bloating, gas, diarrhea, abdominal discomfort, fatigue, weight fluctuations, food sensitivities, low energy, nutrient deficiencies, and nausea are the most common symptoms. So, why is this an issue? Well, if your gut is out of balance, it's just going to impact the function of your gut, the integrity of your gut lining, and it's going to make you more susceptible to getting sick and developing chronic health issues over time. So, definitely something that we want to recognize if it is present. Okay, the next one is H. pylori. This is a type of bacteria that actually can infect your stomach lining, which is a common cause of gastrointestinal issues like gastritis, peptic ulcers, and even in some cases, more severe cases, stomach cancer. In fact, actually, sometimes people that have H. pylori don't necessarily have symptoms, but a lot of times they do. Um, a lot of the symptoms include, discomfort, pain, nausea, bloating. Nausea is a really common one with this. Indigestion. This infection is typically, diagnosed through different means, but it can be diagnosed through a stool test. In fact, I'm pretty sure they can even check it through blood at the doctor's office as well. But addressing H. pylori is just really important because it could lead to, obviously if you have stomach ulcers, that could lead to internal bleeding and various things. But it's basically just a little a tough gut bug to get rid of. In fact, it's not something that is easy to just, you would require a protocol to get rid of this. The protocols that are recommended at your conventional medicine office might look a little different, or in fact, will look a little different than what an integrative health practitioner would recommend. But in our practice, we recommend like it's a protocol utilizing natural herbs and following a specific nutrition plan. But the most common symptoms, like I said, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, bloating, burping, heartburn, tarry, dark stools, indigestion, loss of appetite. Like you would really not likely more commonly not be feeling very good if this little culprit was contributing to your health issues. So, but it's always really great. I actually just had blood work done before the end of the year and they checked for this and luckily it came back negative, but it's good to know, it's good to make sure and to rule out. Food sensitivities. Oh my goodness, I could talk about this for hours. We are a food sensitivity home. And what a lot of people don't actually realize is a food sensitivity. And I apologize for touching my eye a million times. I have a eyelash stuck in my eye of all times when I'm recording this video. But a lot of people don't realize food sensitivities are actually a symptom of other gut imbalances. So food sensitivities actually develop as a result of gut permeability due to all those other factors that I've been teaching you about, like the stress and the poor diet and the medications and all the things over time. Food sensitivities will develop when the food particles that you're eating actually can leak out into your bloodstream and cause systemic inflammation in your body. Your body will send signals, red lights, oh, alert, alert. This is not normal. This shouldn't be in the bloodstream. And your body will go into attack mode and it'll start recognizing the foods that you're consuming as something that should not be there and that are foreign. So you actually become sensitive to those foods. And the most common symptoms of food sensitivities are actually surprising. A lot of people usually assume that it has to do with only digestive symptoms like gas, bloating, nausea, and all of that. While those symptoms can be affiliated with a food sensitivity, other more surprising ones like constipation, headache, migraine, joint pain, skin issues, fatigue, low energy, nausea, and struggle losing weight is a really big red flag. So that's why a lot of people are like, no, I don't have a food sensitivity. My stomach doesn't hurt and I'm not bloated. And it's like, but you just said you had joint pain, skin rashes, and issues like eczema in children is usually directly associated with food sensitivities. And they're really common. A lot of people don't realize, like, I don't know, 9 out of 10 people has at least a food sensitivity. And it's also as a result of the poor food quality that we have access to, like the genetic modification of food and the use of pesticides and herbicides and things like that. The foods that we're eating today are just not the same as they were when our grandparents and great grandparents were consuming those foods. So, very, very common. And this is one of the first things that I assess when someone joins my practice. So, if you have any of these issues on a regular basis, it, would definitely be a good thing to rule out. Okay, yeast and candida. So a lot of people don't actually realize that yeast and candida is not, most people associate it with either thrush on the tongue, on like a little one, or maybe a vaginal yeast infection. But having yeast and candida is actually pretty common within your gut. And it's something that can take place for the same reasons, gut permeability. It can gain access to your, bloodstream for whatever reason, and then gain access to your gut as a result of that gut permeability. But also, a lot of people don't actually realize one of the biggest factors that impacts yeast and candida in the gut is the use of antibiotics. So, a lot of times those antibiotics will kill the good and the bad bacteria, and it will allow for more yeast and candida to multiply and grow within the gut and just wreak havoc and take up real estate. And that's why it's so important that when you do use antibiotics, that you're utilizing some sort of preventative measure, through diet and sometimes like probiotics and whatnot. It really depends on the person to make sure that you're replenishing and restoring your gut. And actually, in practice, as integrative health practitioners, we have protocols in place for people that have to use antibiotics because obviously there's a time, there's a place, sometimes they're required, but you got to be educated on how to support your gut and to get rid of this. Because if it manifests over time, it will contribute to some of the same. So again, bloating, gas, digestion issues, cravings for sugar is a big one. They love sugar. They thrive off of sugar. Nausea, skin issues is another big one, yeast infections on the skin, mood changes, frequent infections, like getting sick, autoimmune symptoms, and fatigue. And a lot of people just don't really realize the connection. When you have gut permeability, you're more susceptible for autoimmune because it leads to a higher toxic burden, which you learned about on week 1. And then it also leads to a lot of like systemic inflammation. And the higher your rain barrel, the higher the inflammation and the stress in your body, the more likely you are to develop a autoimmune or other chronic illness. So obviously, candida and yeast is not something that we want present in the gut. We want to take care of it if it's something that is indicated. So again, another thing that is really good to rule out And then last but not least, the elephant in the room, intestinal parasites. Seems to be a very taboo topic, but I love to bring awareness to it and kind of make it feels more normal because it's a lot more common than people realize. And I feel like we were taught that like a parasite is something that you only can get like from a water park and like 1 in 500 people will get one. No, they're very common if you basically have ever drank any tap water. And I know that you might not now, but if you ever had like ice in your iced coffee from a restaurant or, tap water from McDonald's, like I know we've all been there, like you're susceptible. If you've ever had a fruit or a vegetable, especially organic, like you're susceptible. I cut a strawberry open before and there was like a little worm in there. If you eat a lot of seafood, if you eat a lot of raw sushi, you're very susceptible. Salmon is well known for having parasites. If you eat undercooked meat, if you have pets that sleep on your bed or that have a litter box, like cats, you are very susceptible. If you get out in the dirt and you have a cut, you're susceptible. So, like, parasites can seem really scary, but they're a lot more common than we realize. Definitely something that we want to, figure out and target so that we can make changes. Because, they can definitely wreak havoc. And abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, bloating, change in appetite, skin issues, nutrient deficiencies. So they'll actually like steal the nutrients from the food that you're consuming and use it for themselves because they're selfish. Unintentional weight loss is a big one. If you're like just losing weight and you can't figure it out, you have to think if they're, feasting on your, food and then it can affect your weight. Diarrhea, itchy anus. I know that it's a funny one, but it's true. If you have itchiness, after going to the bathroom, that doesn't go away, especially at night, because parasites are more active at night and also around the full moon. That would be an indicator. And then skin rashes are pretty common, like on the forehead and the upper back and shoulders. That can be a sign that one might have a parasite. And so, is it something you want to do something about? Absolutely. Is it something that we educate on in our practice? Absolutely. There's a natural protocol that we like to, educate on to help get rid of the parasites. Usually, if you have parasites, it's like the first of the imbalances that you want to kind of get to the bottom of. And it's not uncommon to have more than one imbalance. Like I've worked with people that have bacterial overgrowth, food sensitivities, and parasites, and they're all kind of intertwined because it basically is reflective of having a weak gut lining and, not an integral gut as far as like balance and function either. So, what can you do about it? Well, you're in the right place. So, I should have put this first. Oh, by the way, I can't go back. Yes, I can. Can I? One more thing, teeth clenching and bearing down when you're sleeping with your teeth is another symptom of parasites, which is like one of those crazy ones that people are like, oh, um, they're not really like as familiar with. So it's just another one to think about. But the first thing I should have said was implement what you learned this week. That's the first thing that you could do. Like take action with some of the lifestyle things, your diet, your stress management, your sleep, your hydration, like all those things are going to help prime your gut to become healthier over time. And especially if you do decide to dig further and try to see if you do have any of these imbalances, you want to know that you can do the foundational things first, like nutrition and taking care of yourself and managing your stress. Because if you're not taking care of those things first, then new imbalances may or will likely manifest over time when it comes to your gut if you're not taking care of those foundational things. So I like this graphic. It kind of just shows like some basic things that we've talked about throughout this week, just as a refresher. But of course, you can work with an integrative health practitioner if you're not already. So, speak to the person that invited you here about what that might entail or how they can help you get to the bottom of any underlying gut issue that you may be present, and then implement what you learned this week. I'm going to say that one again, just as a friendly reminder. And then lastly, my favorite one is don't guess, test. So there are stool tests and other various functional labs that we offer in our practices that can literally give you information about what is going on within your body. And I feel like they're so valuable because why guess? Like, why look on here? And if you have bloating, like it's really hard to tell which of these things you might have going on, if any. And, so it's really a great tool to rule things out. And that's why I'm so happy this is in the middle. Don't guess test because you want to look at data. The more data you have about your own personal body, um, the more you can do about it, the more action that you can take. And so I always say that in my practice, like, don't guess test, like, let's get the results, let's get the answers, let's see what we're dealing with so that we can educate and inform you on what to do moving forward. Of course, without a shadow of a doubt, doing the lifestyle adjustments is going to help no matter what. But if you do have a parasite or you do have yeast and candida, or you do have a food sensitivity, you kind of got to know about it so that you can do something about it. And so, like I always say, speak to the practitioner that invited you here about any concerns that you might have about having an underlying gut imbalance. And I hope that you're not like alarmed or afraid, hearing this information. I think knowledge is power. It's so important to be informed about what's going on in our body so that we can get ourselves feeling better and you can get yourself feeling better. If you do have any of these issues, yeah, it'll take a little work, consistency, and patience. But there's definitely something that you can do to restore your gut health and get yourself feeling better. And we are just so happy to be able to guide you as far as what is great for you as an individual. So I invite you to drop any questions that you have below on this topic and also any like information that maybe you didn't know that you learned. I would love to hear in the comments so that other people can, connect over this and we can kind of normalize it. Just like I said before, like everybody poops. Well, most people pretty much have gut imbalances. It's pretty common. And if you don't, you're lucky one of the few that's been working hard and your lifestyle habits have been really paying off. But it doesn't mean that the education piece isn't beneficial or it couldn't help you or bless you in the future to inform you about something that may develop in the future, right? So definitely share this information with loved ones and reach out if you have any questions. I hope you have a great rest of your day.